A lot of us think we were in the peak of our creativity in kindergarten. But the truth is, we all get stuck and we could all use a little bit of shakeup in our thinking creative ways, especially now, right? Like turbulence and uncertainty limits our imagination. But fear not, my Facebook denizens. Here to help us is Monica Kang. Okay, she's a creative educator who's transforming today's workforce through the power of creativity. She has a very unique career herself, getting her start. And guess what? Nuclear non-proliferation. That's where I look for when I think about creative consultants. Okay. Today, she's driven by the belief that everyone is innately creative and that creativity can be used to catalyze personal and professional change. Her clients include Fortune 500 companies, higher education, government, and nonprofits. And she's been awarded across numerous platforms, including the White House and the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. So, needless to say, she is super busy and being insanely creative. And on top of all of that, she's the author of Rethink Creativity: How to Innovate, Inspire, and Thrive at Work. So, everyone, please give a whole lot of Facebook love and likes. And let's welcome Monica Kang.
Oh, thank you very much. That's probably one of the most fun online intro that I had in a while. So thank you for the energy. So hi, friends. Super excited to meet you all. My name's Monica Kang. I'm the founder and CEO of InnovatorsBox. And, really here to think about how do we rethink innovation, creativity, especially as business owners. So I have some notes and kind of some thoughts I would love to share with you. So give me a second as I pull out my slide. And so rethinking innovation, the title in itself feels like fun, but what does that actually even really mean? I think I want to start with the question of how can I get comfortable and thrive in uncertainty? Because that's, I think, what we're all trying to do. Something that is a question that we always have to think about. But let's be honest, we're kind of feeling like this right now, right? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. We're in the middle of a fire. Not really sure how to do. I kind of figured out some things. I at least got my coffee with me, but there must be other things that I could do better to navigate this uncertainty, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's the employee status right now, whether it's your team trying to pivot. So let me share and rethink. First thing I want to just acknowledge is something of a question that I had to constantly think about as I've even had to iterate in my life. As Nikhil has just briefly mentioned, I originally was in public policy, specifically in nuclear nonproliferation, and because I got into it because I just felt like there was a lack of diversity. I was very intrigued at how public policy worked, and that security element was very intriguing. And how weapons are scattered around, and you don't really have good security. So how can companies and organizations and governments work together? Which led me to doing innovation because I found when I got depressed in the job I love, the way that you can rethink about it was actually a creative mindset. And I realized, especially now with COVID-19, this lesson and many other lessons that I've continued to learn, but also helped others, is something that I am finding grateful and something I hope I can share with you. Because one thing is true, you can't expect change by repeating the same thing. It's been about 3 months plus for many of us who has been trying to figure out this new pace of change. Shout out to all the small business owners like myself. We're doing everything we can. But hopefully, this conversation we have right now, I hope that I'm going to give you some insights where maybe it's like, oh, I kind of knew that, but I just didn't know the how part, or I didn't know if I was possible to do. Hopefully, you'll get some insights, and that way, know the actions that you can take so that you can bring that change and don't repeat the same thing that doesn't work anymore. I'll tell you this though. For me, the immediate thing when I started hearing that COVID-19 red alert was that this dreamland of me traveling every week, going to all these amazing places, helping people around the world, eh, not working anymore. So immediately, I not only had to think about I cannot do B2B that I did before. 6 months of my work in projects has immediately shut down. I was originally going to go to Korea, Laos, had clients in the Middle East, in the States, and immediately, as many of you has shut off. And I immediately knew that, okay, I just don't want to do just another webinar. There must be a better way to address this. Which led me to this, but I'm kind of skipping over 3 months of the actual thought process I went through. But I wanted to just show you a highlight, even though I panicked quite a bit, asked my friends how I was 3 months ago, and figuring out what in the world can I do when somebody like myself, who actually hates doing webinars, who hates actually sitting in front of a computer screen, ends up being in this monumental moment, building communities, bringing people together, and recognizing that there's a new way to actually bring the core value you do by rethinking innovation. So I start with the obvious. I'm not a camera person in the ways of the webinar like this. This is all very new for me, especially 3 months ago. This was specifically a post I posted on my Facebook for those who are my friends who saw me share on March 2nd that guys, I in the world do not know how you do webinars like online courses because I just took 30 plus pictures of me trying to script this and it was horrible. It was horrible. I don't know. I'm used to doing on stage, like sitting. I can't see you. I don't know if you're smiling. So I was feeling this, but I had to brace myself and remember that, okay, let me walk my talk. What do I know? What's something that I know about change is inevitable that I have to rethink from panic to being curious? So this is what I had to think through. Now, well, I know with the work and the process that I do is that the key thing about innovation at the end of the day is really the gist of rewiring your thinking. And one of that thinking is making simplifying complex problems. Now, I know that no travels and no in person and all of that seems complex, but I can kind of boil it down to things that are a little bit simpler, such as what do I know that I can do? And what do I know that I can't do? Well, I am going to have no control over the vaccine. Thank you for all those who are. Thank you very much. I can't. I do know that for sure. I'm not going to get involved in politics. And thank you again for those who are. I'm also not going to know what someone's going to share, both the loves and the hate messages. I have no control over that. I have no control over how long this is going to last, or let alone what my customers are going to be feeling. But I do know that I absolutely love creating meaningful experiences. That's the very reason why I got into my business because I just thought about, if innovation and creativity is so important, there must be a better way you learn it, not just like the nitty gritty, like this is the prototype, follow this, da, da, da. I'm like, that's not exciting. And I know I love that and I can do that. I wanted to choose and read and how I spend my quality time. And I do know that I like working with good people, finding joy and calm in the midst of uncertainty. And as I was kind of processing this mind mapping for myself, I quickly realized that, well, I need to then think about how do I spend more time in the what do I know that I can do and not enough time and less time in the things that I know that I can't do. So that I start reproportioning my weeks and days and quickly getting into the question of what do I want to do more and what do I want to do less? Because again, as I said at the beginning, rethinking innovation at the essence is learning how to rewire your brain and the way you think about it to then decide how you actually make decisions. It's not just about product innovation. This is actually all the back end of the work that happens in your head to get to that product innovation and solution and all of that. So in my case, I knew for sure I didn't want to chase the wrong clients. I absolutely did not want to burn out. This is a marathon, guys. Like we need to think about this is not just a few weeks or a few months. We got to think about the long-term horizon. Are your solutions that you're making and your team that you're thinking through? It's not just about 1 or 2 weeks. It's what's the implication for a few years? I did know that I wanted to serve a community in a unique way that I knew I can do best, but in a way that I loved. And go again, how can I do more of what I love and do less of what I don't? And I want you to take a moment to reflect on these questions as you look at your business or for employees, individuals as well, even for your life. Because for me, that at the end of the day, going back to complexity to simplicity, is about self awareness. If I don't know, what I don't know, how I feel about my unknowns, I'm not going to know how to navigate all these uncertainty. And so it led me to that clear question of, okay, I think based on everything that I just talked about, on that complex brain of spiral, that uncertainty to simplicities, the question I really need to focus is how can I do more of what I love and do well at a virtual space and virtually? And that's what it led to number 2. Wow. Start, iterate, and just don't stop. This is a little embarrassing. In fact, this whole presentation, I have never shared this. So you are getting fresh content. I have never shared any of these stories, but this was me way back March 9th. That feels like a million time ago. But March 9th, when I posted this first video, because of that other photo that I showed you on March 2nd, guys, I was so impressed at myself. I thought I did a great job. I was so proud of myself. I iterated, I put it out something on the web. My family didn't think so. This is the real conversation. My parents and my brother, they all live in Korea right now. My brother used to live in New York, but he moved back to Korea just in time before things got worse. And you know how my family is very important for me, and that's actually one of the very reasons why you do not see any of my family pictures because it's for privacy reasons. But uh, this is how nicely they were, and you know about Asian families. For some reason, suddenly each one of them took turns messaging like, "Hi Nuna," which is sister, like, "Hi Monica. Hey, so do you have a few minutes to just hop on the phone?" Like for some weird reason, all three of them literally did this, and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure." And I made time. You know what it is? They wanted to give me feedback about how awful this video was and how much work I should do. And I should really reconsider if I should do these videos again, March 9th. And I had a heart to heart conversation. And it turns out this was the most funniest part. All three of them shared similar feedback, but none of them actually talked with one another because they thought if they spoke with one another, like Nuna's going to be upset. So we shouldn't talk about it. They all just looked at the video. They knew they were unhappy. They were like, we're just going to send a personal message to her. So I am glad I stuck with it and I took their feedback. We laughed about it and I say, one day I'm going to put this in this presentation and share about it because that led me to building my confidence. Yes, I am now looking back. There was a lot of mistakes, but I'm still glad I did it because that's the point. Right now, it's all about iteration. Don't let those family feedbacks, even out of love, stop you because they're just doing it out of care. Build on that. And that, for me, led me to many of these shows and really letting that not so perfect versions continue on. Please don't scroll back to way too much because I am a little embarrassed at some of my earlier versions, but I'm glad I put it out there because each time I put something out, I got comfortable and I learned something new, which was that there was a craving community who wanted quality content that was just beyond ha ha ho ho, like funny things, and real knowledgeable, but in a thoughtful way. And that's what I knew I could do. Well, but you shouldn't stop there. We got to think about how we continue to rethink innovation. And that leads to number three, which is you got to make sure you do more of what only you can do so that you can shine, right? Let's admit it. I mean, we're all stars in different ways. It's just that some of us are more visible stars that we call celebrities or, you know, are visible, but all of you have something unique that only you can do that nobody else in the world can do. And I think the more we take a moment to think about, okay, whether it's my business, whether it's me as an individual, whether it's me as in my journey, can focus on bringing that energy, you might be surprised at what that means, not only just for your business, but for your life and the relationships you build. For me, one thing that I do know I love doing is making these boring type of traditional conference settings into a jazzed up fun moment where they actually learn something new. They have an interactive time. If you take a moment and scan briefly, you see these colorful papers in the middle of the table. That's me. You see somebody taking even a picture. They're like, we probably don't see stuff like this. That's my jam, right? Um, yeah, COVID-19 kind of changed that a little bit. I cannot do this like this anymore. But again, remember I had this little thought activity. I thought about what I want to do more, what I want to do less. And that led me to thinking about how I do this online. This is a quick snapshot of a couple of the different projects that I ended up doing in the past 3 months that I did not even know it was going to be happening until I started getting looped into it. One example is the Emerging Leader Summit that I work with the Council of Korean Americans, where initially we were just trying to figure out what solution can we give for the college and next generation. And it quickly led into this whole 3 month project where we not only did a free webinar, we did this summit, we had 100, 200 audiences, and I created the whole curriculum in the show and the whole journey. And then now I'm in charge of the whole summer month project where 6 weeks of program of learning of 20 individuals who's going to go through that. That insight, of course, continued to help me not only help contribute as a facilitator to events like Complexity Weekend, which was a weekend hackathon, but knowing again my expertise that I love to create experiences. When I learned that what they were doing and where they were wanting to do more, I'm like, yes, and can I help you enhance some of these interpersonal relationships? Let's make that screen experience less static. Can we make it more interpersonal? Can we make it more relatable? Is there a way to make it sticky? And I want to figure out how to do that so that we assess it. And not only did I ended up playing a bigger role over the weekend where they called me the macro team lead, and thank you team for giving me the chance to help a bigger role together. And I just had a blast creating and including this 23 plus. That was one of the files that I started making just to help creating original values. I created all these free tools to help people access, and around the world, people accessed and said, I didn't know creativity meant that I can rethink about my process. I didn't know creativity mean that I can rethink about how I talk with my people. And it's been absolutely empowering to know that by me just going back again, okay, it's not that I need to put another webinar out. It's not that I need to put another training out, which I will still do, but it's focusing on what is something that I can do in the most original way, because that's what the best value, what I can provide would be, and you can provide, but also what people would gain. They don't need millions of webinars. They need something so original that they can only get it from you so that you shine. And that led me to most recently this past week, we did our Asian American meetup, which I only really had about 2 weeks to plan with my friend, even though it's something I've been wanting to do for a while. And because of that vision, and it's something that specifically I knew I wanted to do, we quickly had about 120 people, 30 cities, 6 generations, and in just 2 hours, every person met at least 7+ people that they want to build meaningful relationships. So we're continuing. So I'll share the link so that you can join next one. But again, the key is you focus on doing what only you can do. Because innovation is not about just copying other things. It has to be your value. And you have something special that nobody else can do. Find that again and think about what is something that you originally can provide. And that's why people are coming to you. Not because it's cheap, not because you're the next person next door, but because you're providing something nobody else does. That's actually part of the secret sauce of innovation. And the other thing is, you gotta not be afraid of letting it grow, because you actually have no idea how things could evolve. I mean, we had no idea probably this event to be the way it is just even a few months or a few weeks ago. And there's going to be many more moments like that. So start with an open door. I told you about my story of how I started this. This is one of the many things. I actually started also interviewing friends and then started asking them to join my creativity show that I did twice a week and 3 times a week. But then quickly after that, I realized, well, there must be other things. And I started interviewing people around the world, how they were navigating COVID-19. But then I was still curious. Now that I got better at interviewing and then also doing like these video edits, by the way, that I had zero knowledge 3 months ago, led me to now doing these of live talk shows of 11 people that I host live and actually do a fun talk show where I do Q&A, and even doing this meetup that I just told you before. But again, the key was if I focused each time just having a very specific goal and was like, okay, I just want to do one-on-one interviews. I just want to sell this one product. Then I would have never gone to this, what happened this week of that wonderful moment of 120+ people who've never met before coming together in a meetup and just gathering, and even any of this. I mean, as of now, in the past 3 months, since my embarrassing video of my parents' family, nobody wanting to talk, now they have an open morning conversation every time I send a video. And then they send me a summary of critique, which I hugely appreciate. They actually now discuss as a family, as part of their routine. But as a result, I've now had 50+ videos. Because of this project, now people are reaching out for me for these type of skills. And something I've always wanted to do more, which is part of the many things, building original content. And lastly, but not the least, I want to make sure you think about rethinking innovation is not just about having the results, but it's the whole journey. And if you're not enjoying the process or building processes that makes it fun for you, it gets kind of boring. Because the whole point about being creative is it's a messy process. You're not supposed to know how you might end, and you have to have the courage to stay open and learn. Because if not, you're just repeating what's been done and just staying in the safe zone. We don't have time for that. You all can do so much more when you don't stay in the safe zone. I mean, know your safe zone. It is important to know your financial boundaries, your kind of resources, but that's a different ballgame of letting your imaginations go a little bit out there. Because if you don't do that, we're just repeating the same thing. How do we expect to grow? Um, for me, one thing I constantly went back to is like, I know I'd love to learn. So to make this fun, I had to think about how I can make this fun for me to learn. I had a packed agenda that was getting really booked. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to make sure every week at least there's meaningful conversations. I'm not going to be in any Zoom calls unless I'm going to really find value. And it quickly led me to like mind mapping. This is actually my wall. I just took a few minutes ago before this to show the most updated version of how I was mapping out my vision and thinking about what are the things that I had to learn newly, things that I had to get better really fast, and staying open of what I can do more. And because of that, not only of all those shows that I was able to do, I didn't have the goal of wanting to do 50 shows. I just focused on these are weekly milestones and the overall goals that I have. And I focused on automating, simplifying fun processes to make it easier. That led to, again, this beginning photo that I shared with you. This, I mean, even just putting this together when I was preparing this, I had no idea that this is how many, and this is only the part of the many things that I've done and many things that you're probably doing as well. How am I actually making money with this and processing through? This is just the beginning. This has already led me to new conversations and projects that I've been wanting to do more that I have not. And I hope you're thinking about is that yes, financial thing and innovation is immediately of concern, but don't let that stop you to think about what actions you can take. I hope that the framework that we discussed about helped you think about what you can do with these insights because it's a messy road out there. Things are already a lot more complicated and messier than we think, especially with COVID 19 and even before that. But you have the resilience. You've already tackled a lot of challenges not a lot of people thought was possible. Just bring that back in and think about how would I navigate this complex reality by going back to the simplicity and rewiring your thinking. And if you forget all of that, go back to again the simplicity. These are three questions, at least for me, I ask every day and think about how do I bring value? What are people really wanting? What are people tired of? And what do I want to do more? Because in that midst of it, that's probably the secret sauce of your innovation, your value, and something that you can provide that you can put a price tag or even build a community around that. So be patient, persistent, courageous, and just know that creativity at the end of the day is really a mindset and a thinking process. And that's the reason why when everyone else is seeing what everyone else has seen and thinking about what no one else has seen. So I hope that with this insight and rethinking your creativity and your mindset, you know how to see with color when everyone else can only see black and white. And so with that, I hope you have time to think about how you make time for imagination. Knowledge is great, but imagination is what we need to get from A to Z and with a dose of courage. So rethinking innovation, I hope that has helped you to be a little bit more curious and back to you.
Woo! All right, good job, Monica. That was fantastic. There were so many great takeaways in that. Yeah, I think we would love to kind of dig in. We have a little bit of time. I think one of
Yes.
the so many points you mentioned, but I think one of the things I really resonated, I think resonates a lot with our audience, was this whole concept of creativity and failure in the context of Asian culture. I love that. I just immediately had to mention that. Like, you know, that when I put out a video, that's the first thing my mom, my uncle, my aunt were like, oh, why? You have an engineering degree. Why would you do this? So that resonated so deeply with me. So can we talk about that a second? Like, what do you think people should do to get over the stigma of creativity and failing forward?
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And that's why I said back to my family, I am so grateful that you guys even did it because this would not be understood in a non-Asian setting. I just like I'm glad my Asian genes recognized that they were doing this out of so much love and
Yep.
care.
Yep.
And I think and yeah. So couple things. Uh you're absolutely right. Just to break that down a few pieces. One, as you have acknowledged, being creative and being an innovation absolutely means that there's a lot of messiness. So you are given that there's going to be moments that even for you, like, yeah, mom and dad, I know it's not perfect, but I had to put it out there.
Yep.
I had to do iteration. So part of the thinking is that I found it really helpful, especially from my Asian part of my culture and the Americanness and the innovation to kind of break things down. Again, my whole thing about innovation and thinking about creativity is you make that complex everything into breakable, digestible things. So number one, I recognize that that's going to happen at some point.
Mhm,
So I'm
mhm,
prepared when it happens.
mhm,
Number two, when it does not happen, then it's like, oh wow, thank you. Okay, I'm glad you
mhm.
liked it. Double bonus, right?
Double bonus. I love that. Mhm,
But when it does, then it's an opportunity to have a conversation because I know they're doing it out of love, and
mhm,
then it's an opportunity to have that discussion. And I was so glad that I was at least a little bit of a happier state when I even recognized that that's what they were all doing. And I said blanketly, you know, guys, I so appreciate you doing that out of love. And I'm glad I built my resilience to recognize it. But I'm going to have these open conversations because I'm still human. If it was on my bad day, I might be crying and I might not have never uploaded any of the videos because I got criticism from the people I love the most.
Right.
I want to get compliments. I'm a human being too.
That's right.
I like compliments. I like love. So that I think was important. And so to take that second part a little bit deeper, what I recognize is if I know that conversation might happen, I might even just call actually when I know I'm in a good space.
Yeah.
I might wait for a little bit if I'm not feeling well, just so that I know I don't want to be triggered.
Right.
That's one step I can do. And if I do talk about it, I try my best to openly rehash that out to say, yes, and can we be more mindful next time? I would rather have you all continue to tell me because I want to improve. I would hate for them to feel discouraged and say, I mean, Asian friends, we all know our parents have the best advice, frankly.
Yep.
They're the one who's the only one who's like, you know, that shirt color did not look good on you. Please make sure you wear it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you could have won an award, but you still would have got the shirt. Wasn't you're like
you see now because of that comment, you're going to be even more dashing the next time when you're in those photos of winning the award. Like who? So I had those conversations more openly, and I had to think about again first making sure that I was at a happy state that I could take it, but to learn how to articulate that, knowing that they're doing out of love. And I think that takes practice. So one example to also add to that is the one conversation I did have when I started my business is, especially with that whole jump that we just said, nuclear weapons to innovation, is I knew I was not going to figure out immediately. I mean, I'm still figuring out. I think we're each time we're getting to the next big thing. And I told them, okay, mom and dad, I did research. And the stats apparently show that it might take about 5 to 7 years to really be good at it.
Smart.
And I am a very emotional person, as you know, and I really value all your opinions. And I would rather want to call you when I'm upset. I rather want to talk with you when I'm celebrating. And I rather want to tell you all the crazy things I go through. And I would never, ever want to be in a situation where I can't call you because you might yell at me or you might be upset at me.
Right.
Would it be okay if we do a little vow and do a protocol that, thank you, sorry, that you let me, I will figure out the money on my own, with the small support you gave me, but let me have my way. And if you feel tempted to say it, you can say, okay, you're going to hang up the phone and you guys can talk, but I don't want to hear that. Just call me when you're done complaining to one another, and then you can talk to me about something else. And that has been one cue that I found hugely helpful. And we still joke on to this day because sometimes they forget. I'm like, oh, remember, you're not supposed to discourage me. I still have another year or two left. So I made a little profit last year. So this year might be an exception. So setting those kind of boundaries.
Right.
Is hugely important. So I went about a little bit, but hopefully that helps.
No, this is amazing. And I think there's so much more to unpack and uncover with you. So where can people find out more? At your company, you have a website, we can find out more.
Yes, absolutely. So find me at InnovatorsBox. Find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or also at Monica H. Kang. And for YouTube, again, since that's a place that we're building a lot of content, find us. I do have a lot of fun meetups and gatherings that I'm organizing. So reach out. Come join them so that you can be part of our innovators community. But thank you so much for having me. I hope this was helpful. And Asian innovators are extra special. So please let that shine. We need more.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you again so much, Monica. You guys hopefully learned some great lessons, and we have a lot more to come. All right, we'll jump into the next one. Thanks again, Monica. We'll all see you in a bit.
Thank you.